Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The Court of Appeal has upheld the convictions of dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel, Sean Campbell, Kahira Jones and Andre St. John for the 2011 murder of Clive Lizard Williams. The decision was handed down this morning. Kartel, whose given name is Adidja Palmer, and his co-accused were convicted in 2014. The attorney for Adidja, Vybz Kartel Palmer, Valerie Nita Robertson, says she's disappointed at the court's decision to dismiss his appeal. Mrs. Nita Robinson says she was confident that the appeal could have been approved based on the grounds of her arguments put forward in the case. However, she says she'll be appealing to the UK-based Privy Council, which is Jamaica's highest appellate court.
If you get leave, then you have to retain counsel to argue in the
UK.
In the UK. My concern now is having regard to the state of the United Kingdom with this COVID-19. We don't know when or the courts will be up and running. But in any event, it will take a year or more.
Meanwhile, attorney at law Bert Samuels has reacted to the decision by the Court of Appeal against his client, Sean Campbell, known as Sean Storm. Mr. Samuels says he and his team are disappointed. TVJ News caught up with him at his offices in St. Andrew.
All the experience I have, I'm still in shock because this is one of the strongest appeals I've ever argued in my 41-year career at the bar. This is why I'm encouraged that we will succeed at the next level. Sean Campbell had discussions with us. We broached to him the possibility, the remote possibility that we would have been turned down, and he said in the unlikely event we should go to the Privy Council. So we don't have to consult with him now. What we need to do is to study the written judgment, which we are trying to find on the internet. And when we find that judgment, we will see how the court managed to navigate through evidence like the geopositioning of his phone, Mr. Campbell's phone, in being in Portmore when the alleged offense is taking place in Havendale. And why would a man, knowing that he's guilty, go into the police on 3 occasions when he was called on the phone? He surrendered himself to the police. They detained him for 2 weeks. They released him. They detained him for a week. They released him. And finally, when they called him again, he went in. That is conduct totally consistent with his innocence. But as we've said, our day will come in the Privy Council, and the defense never rests. It's almost scandalous that we had to wait 1 year and 8 months for this judgment. We have had no reason yet why we waited so long, and I'm sure the written judgment will address that issue because the public opinion is that this has been too long. And justice delayed, we know what it is.
And our reporter Vashon Brown was at the Court of Appeal and spoke to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, after the ruling.
The Court of Appeal have spoken, and this was a very complex matter with several legal issues, and I know both the prosecuting team and the defense team would have done extensive research and given very detailed submissions, and I believe that the Court of Appeal have rendered a judgment which will be a critical and seminal one, given the nature of the legal issues in this jurisdiction and other Caribbean jurisdictions. I am proud of my team. They worked very, very hard and many late nights, and as in any other profession, whether you're a journalist, a doctor, or any other professional area of competence, when you work hard and you get the result, then, you know, that's always a positive.
What does this say about the justice system? So many people say when we had the trial in 2014, the justice system itself was also on trial.
Well, every now and again, and you know, we had that other matter, that other hot matter recently. You do have cases that come before the court that demands the utmost in transparency, and it really puts the justice system on trial, because there is a view, somewhat misguided, I think, or misperceived, let me use misperceived, that some people are above the law. There is a view that because of station in life, or the fact that the person may be very wealthy, or the person may be very famous or well known, that somehow they are above the law.
And the appeal court has also refused to hear the appeal of former Education Minister Royal Reid and President of the Caribbean Maritime University CMU, Professor Fritz Pinnock. In handing down its decision this morning, the court ruled that Mr. Reid and Professor Pinnock pay the financial costs to the Financial Investigation Division, FID. Lawyers for Mr. Reid and Professor Pinnock had applied to the appeal court for leave to appeal last month's ruling by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court had rejected their application for leave to seek judicial review of the decision of the Financial Investigation Division, FID, to lay 4 charges against them in the Ministry of Education CMU affair. In addition, the appeal court also refused the application to stay the criminal case against Reid and Pinnock. Lead attorney Hugh Wildman had argued that the charges are null and void and should be quashed, as the FID does not have the powers to charge the persons. Mr. Wildman told our news centre that he will be taking his case to the UK-based Privy Council. We take a break now on Midday News. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Continuing the news. Hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans who have lost their jobs or working on reduced incomes are struggling financially. The Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, commissioned a poll to find out how Jamaicans are coping with the dislocation caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Almost 50% of respondents in the CAPRI poll say they will run out of savings by next month. And if the crisis continues, that number could go as high as 91%. Kalisha Williams has that story.
There is no doubt people have been losing money, and many have been out of a job since the COVID-19 pandemic hit our shores. So just how have Jamaicans been coping since the crisis? The Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, commissioned Blue Dot Insights to conduct a poll on March 31 to find out just that. It has a sample size of 700 persons across ages, occupations, parishes, and income levels. When it comes to savings, only 9% of respondents would have savings to rely on beyond 6 months, while 16% have no savings at all. In the meantime, 46% of those who responded to the poll said they already had a reduction in their household income. So how are people responding to the crisis? Well, many are already cutting back. Entertainment, personal care, phone credit, and transportation being the first items on the budget to go. 11% said they have cut back on spending on groceries, while 10% reduced paying loans, 5% on utilities, and 3% on rent or mortgage. It appears many people will now be reliant on the compensation package promised by the government. The finance minister has announced that persons who lose their jobs as a result of the economic fallout from COVID-19 are to receive $54,000 from the government over the next 3 months. They will receive the cash in fortnightly installments of $9,000. Tourism employers will also be paid cash based on the number of low-income employees they retain for the next 3 months. Benefits have also been announced for persons in the informal sector and small businesses. Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, is calling for a speedy review of the exemption list for the COVID-19 containment curfew. The Commission raised the issue after the security forces reported challenges with residents in some areas who refused to comply with the curfew order on Wednesday night. According to Commissioner Terence Williams, while INDECOM is mandated to investigate shootings and accusations of abuse by police, it also helps to prevent issues between the police and the public.
There was a shooting incident where the public in the area blocked the roads and protested. and there might have been a serious confrontation with the police. Had it not been for Indicom's attendance at that scene to ensure the public that there will be a proper investigation. As a result, the people were calmed and order restored.
In addition to helping in that regard, Mr. Williams says not being exempted is a hindrance to the Commission fulfilling its mandate.
Written to the Minister of National Security and asked him to take the matter to the Cabinet for us to be granted this exemption.
Lawyers from the Cornwall Bar Association are also asking to be included on the list of exempted professionals. In news from the region, a sixth person has died from COVID-19 in Trinidad and Tobago. The Twin Island Republic has 97 confirmed cases from 688 samples tested by the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA. On Monday, Trinidad and Tobago had 82 positive cases from 539 tests with 3 deaths. In 4 days, the number of deaths doubled with 15 more positive cases. The Ministry of Health tested 149 samples in that period. In an update on the coronavirus, cases around the world, Johns Hopkins University tallied on Friday indicated that the virus has infected more than 1 million people and killed over 53,000 worldwide. The worst hit country is the United States, which is projected to become the new epicenter with more than 257,000 cases and over 6,000 deaths. Top infectious diseases expert Dr. Anthony Fauci has called for a federally mandated stay-at-home order. There is caution in China, with officials in Wuhan, ground zero for the pandemic, telling residents to only go outside when necessary as the city begins to open up following 2 months of lockdown. A list published on officially reported data, Italy leads with 13,915 deaths, followed by Spain, 10,935 deaths. But the United States, of course, was by far the most cases of any nation. Still in the United States, the White House is expected to soon advise Americans living in the coronavirus hotspots to wear cloth masks or scarves in public to help stop the spread of the virus. And we go to sports. Lead selector of Cricket West Indies, Roger Harper, says he doesn't expect any difficulties picking future teams despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Cricketers across the Caribbean are currently inactive and risk losing fitness due to the postponement and cancellations of several franchise competitions, including the regional 4-day championships, which ended with 2 rounds of matches to play. However, Harper says they will not change their selection policy when the West Indies return to competitive action.
Heaven only knows what the status of things will be when this thing comes to an end. But I think that the same sort of criteria that we use to select teams will, of course, be used. And we'll have to take into consideration, of course, the most recent performances of the players and, of course, their present condition. If they're fit and healthy, then those are the things we'll have to take into consideration. There wouldn't be anything much more to go on. The recent performances, the track record, all those things will be used. Similar criteria we use all the time.
There's uncertainty whether the West Indies tour of England, which is scheduled to start on May 22, will go ahead. Meanwhile, despite the 4-day season ending after 8 rounds, Harper, who was speaking on Bajan radio program Mason and Guest, said he was satisfied with what he saw.
And it's an opportunity for our players to showcase their skills and show what they're made of. I think one of the pluses this year was that we had a number of our international players involved during the tournament, if not in every game, certainly in a number of games, which made a difference.
The Jamaica Scorpions tied with the Guyana Jaguars in 3rd place, with the Barbados Pride being declared champions. And that's the midday news for now. Join us at 7 for primetime news on behalf of the news, sports and production teams. Good afternoon.